Chapter 133, Sleepless Nights. Xiao Dingfei. Xiao Shi, Dingfei Crown Prince. How honorable a name. With it, the heavenly sect is respectful to him from top to bottom, and it will be even more indescribable in the future. It's just a pity that some people hate it. I'd rather give up this old name and surname and return to the white body, and suffer from all kinds of hardships and dangers, rather than have any glory and wealth. Compared with Xiao Dingfei has always been the kind of person who is diametrically opposed to him. But it is undeniable that he was favored by this man. Therefore, in the face of Xiao, he never dared to be too presumptuous, let alone as perverse as the rest of the heavenly sect. Even if the sect leader did a clean job, those who knew the truth died in accidents one after another. Xiao was non-committal to his implicit mockery, but said, "I once sent someone to look for you in the drunken music workshop, and the girl in the drunken music workshop said that you went to brew for 10 years to buy wine, and when you found the brewing for 10 years, you knew that you didn't go at all." Xiao Dingfei leaned on the pillow. "Isn't this panicking?" Xiao stared at him. He smiled loosely. "I heard that Mr. Gongai has not heard from me, but it frightened me." Xiao said calmly, "Mr. Gongai has been by the sect leader's side for a long time, and I can't stop him when I get to Beijing, and I don't know what he did, but he accidentally died under the arrows of the imperial court during the encirclement and suppression of Shuntian Mansion, and I was shocked when I suddenly heard it. It's just that the matter is urgent, and the imperial court also has a plan, and even the body of Mr. Gongai has not been seen. I'm afraid that the news will come back to Jinling, and the sect leader will know that he should be sad. Isn't it sad? I'm afraid I'm going to be angry. Gongai Chen has always given advice to him, but he is a real right-hand man. He went to the capital, and it is gone. If he doesn't know it, who will believe it?" Xiao Dingfei stretched out his hand to Jianshu. "Tea." Jianshu gave him a blank look, but still poured him tea. When the tea was handed to him, he said to Jianshu, "You are so good," and then turned back and muttered, "The capital is your territory, naturally whatever you say is what it is, and I don't dare to suspect that Gongai Chen was killed by you." Xiao smiled, "I don't know when you also have a brain." Xiao Dingfei took a sip of tea, and was rarely proud. "It's a pity that I didn't run away, but I won't suffer a loss if I try anyway. What if I succeed?" Xiao said, "But it didn't work out." Xiao Dingfei smiled shyly. "What? Mr. can't be so ruthless. After all, I can be regarded as a meritorious person this time." Xiao raised his eyebrows. "Oh." Xiao Dingfei was drinking tea on the spot, but in fact, he quietly looked at Xiao's expression, and he was not afraid at all, but he was beating a drum in his heart. The events of the past few days come to mind. He thought of the heavenly sect members who had been shot to death in the valley during the day, and racked his brains to figure out how to win a glimmer of life for himself in this seemingly calm but hidden crisis. He said, "I exposed the identity of that mask." Xiao said, "Really?" Xiao Dingfei said, "Really, and it's not too early or too late, it's today. Who am I, and how obedient I am, don't you know, sir? After so many years, you can't keep it wrong. From the very beginning they said they were going to rob the prison, and I felt that this was not quite right. When I saw that the person surnamed Zhang appeared in the temple with a girl, and said that mountain people live in the mountains, this dog official must be talking nonsense. But when I saw Xiaobao there, I didn't say anything, thinking that you had some plan in secret. It wasn't until I saw Xiaobao take Zhang our girl away this morning, and I saw the secret letter you wrote to Feng Minjiao and Wu Feng's 2 grandsons in this view, that I exposed the surname Zhang. To say that this time from the capital to Tongzhou, the road is steep and complicated, who can see it most clearly? I am afraid that it is really Xiao Ding. Who let him know both? Some people are both soldiers and thieves, and they also like to play a good show of fighting left and right, catching thieves, so that both sides think that the other party is against them, but they don't know that there is another push in the middle. The death of Gong Gai is the beginning of everything. Regardless of whether he killed this person on impulse or not, Xia Wei's follow-up plan was meticulous enough. But Gu Chunfang's recommendation of Zhang Sha to come in and intervene was the first accident. Xia Weiruo's awe-inspiring refusal inevitably aroused suspicion, because he simply planned it, and the plan was inconvenient, so he only put Zhang Sha into the chess game, and ordered Xiao Bei to peep secretly. I don't want to have Zhang Xuning soon, it's the second accident. The situation has become complicated. If Zhang Sha is rashly exposed, Zhang Xuning, who is with him, will be implicated, but I am afraid that it will not end well. So he asked himself to lead people to encircle and suppress the heavenly sect. At this time, there was a third accident. After the fall of the Marquis of Yanji, Xiao tried to get the military power of the two large battalions in Fengtai and Tongzhou, and made meritorious contributions in front of the emperor. 3 accidents, 1 overlapping and 1 heavy. Xia Wei wanted to protect Zhang Xuning, 2nd, to get rid of Zhang Sha, 3rd, to deal with the Xiao family, and 4th, to use the imperial court to weaken the power of the heavenly sect. He deliberately fell behind Xiao Yuan first and let him go. On the one hand, they pretended to be traitors from the side of the heavenly sect and provided Xiao Yuan with the top secret news that the heavenly sect had settled in Shanqingguan, and on the other hand, they sent a secret letter in the name of the people of Dujinshan to warn the heavenly sect, saying that the people who had returned from Beijing had the eyes of the imperial court, and then informed them of the attack of the Xiao clan, so that they could prepare as soon as possible, and ambush them with explosives, so as to lure the enemy deep at that time. The reason why it is not directly stated that the eyeliner of the imperial court is Zhang Sha is because Zhang Xuning is still there. Zhang Sha went deep into the heavenly sect. How much would he know? If a person accidentally peeks into the secret for him, he is afraid that he is the one who has no place to die. It is necessary to get rid of it. The secret letter deliberately mentioned that there was eyeliner in order to make the heavenly sect suspicious of Zhang Sha and control his whereabouts, but it would not directly attack him, so as to implicate Zhang Xuning, who was traveling with him. When Xiao Bei takes Zhang Xuning away, Zhang Sha can kill him. At this time, if his identity is revealed, the heavenly sect will inevitably rise up and take his life. Even if the court investigates it in the future, it has nothing to do with his Xia Wei. What's more, it wasn't that he forced Zhang Sha to go, on the contrary, it was Gu Chunfang, the new secretary of the criminal department, who recommended him, and he couldn't be held accountable if he wanted to be investigated. Therefore, if the plan goes well, Zhang will die, the Xiao family will be ambushed, and the remnants of the rebel party of the heavenly sect will also be cleaned up by him who came later. At that time, Xiao Yuan will suffer a big loss if he doesn't die. And when he arrives later, he is a fisherman hidden behind a sandpiper and a yellow finch hidden above the praying mantis and cicadas, and will become the only beneficiary, the big winner. A full plan, using strength, to eradicate dissidents, can be called seamless. Who would have thought? Out of Zhang Xuning. Xia Wei sat by the fire. The bright red charcoal reflected a little faint light like twilight, falling into his eyes, flickering, and said flatly, "So, not only can I not punish you, but I will reward you." Xiao Dingfei felt a chill down his spine, and shook his head hurriedly. Don't dare, don't dare." This salivating face and soft bones, without any arrogance, just like a bastard rolling in the quagmire of the market, makes people feel disgusted when they look at it. It's just that this is exactly what he likes to see. Xia Wei frowned slightly, and slowly let go, before he said, "Raise it, you will have a good life when you go to the capital. If you dare to run next time, I'll have someone discount your legs, and this face will be enough." The coldness hidden in these words is not fake. Xiao Dingfei couldn't hold back the sneer on his face when he listened. After Xie Wei finished talking to him, no matter what his reaction was, he got up and walked outside. The sword book and the sword Qin were busy holding an umbrella and a lantern, and went out with Xie Wei. There was still some light snow at night, but it was much smaller than at dusk. The lantern was not bright, only shining 3 or 4 feet of ground nearby, and there was not much reflected snow. The knife harp pressed the umbrella very low. When the three of them went out from the round door, they saw a somewhat tall figure wandering on the porch outside the door, wearing a satin brocade robe, with an old body and a slight fat, white temples, and a face that was still showing off its might during the day seemed to be a little uneasy and hesitant at the moment, and it was cloudy and sunny at one time, revealing a little terrifying. "It is Xiao Yuan, the Duke of Dingguo." Jianshu saw that he turned around and whispered. Xie Wei looked in that direction, and then laughed and said, "In the big night, why is Grandpa here?" Xiao Yuan didn't expect Xie Wei to come out of it. He was stunned for a moment, and quickly put away the expression on his face, looked at the courtyard behind him, and hurriedly said, "Oh, it's okay, it's just that the rebels of the heavenly sect are all dead, and it's a pity that they couldn't pry anything out of their mouths. But when I heard that young Master Xie had arrested a very important person in the heavenly sect, I was a little curious." God knows what Xiao Yuan's mood was when he heard the news. He was asking the doctor if Xiao Ye's leg was still good. As a result, the soldiers hurriedly ran in and said to him, saying that Mr. Xie had captured a Tianjiao rebel party named Xiao Dingfei. "It's really thunder from the head." He caught the soldier and questioned him 3 times before he could believe that he had heard correctly. Immediately, his eyelids jumped wildly, and his heart welled up with all kinds of fear. How could it be? It must be a coincidence. How could the child still be alive? All the 300 righteous children were buried under the snow. So little kid, so little kid. Xiao Yuan had always known that the Xiejuan was the best at observing words and feelings, lest he see any flaws, and said, "I heard that this person seems to be called Dingfei." When he said these 2 words, the back of his head shuddered. In the depths of winter, the snow is cold and the wind is bitter. This Shangqing view is built on the mountain, the shadows of the trees are one after another, and the snow falls from the branches when the cold wind shakes, and the silence is as if there is a ghost quietly walking in the snow, which makes people's hearts tremble. The corners of Xie Wei's snow-white robe were blown up by the wind. The lantern carried by the sword book shone brightly. In this snowy and cold night, he stared at the patriarch of the Xiao clan in front of him, and smiled lightly, but it was too good-looking, and he didn't know if it was more like a god in the sky, or a ghost wandering in the dark, so he only said, "Yes, everyone calls him Dingfei Gongzi, but it reminds Xie of the case of the Yanji Marquis mansion a while ago, and the secret letter between Yan Mu and the heavenly sect mentioned the trace of the noble son, but it seems that he is still alive. In the world." In the cold weather, sweat broke out on Xiao Yuan's forehead. He rolled his throat and laughed, but he was very reluctant, and he didn't even notice Xie Wei's staring gaze in his confusion, and stumbled, "Maybe it's a coincidence that there are so many people with the same name and surname in the world." Xie Wei said, "I just went to take a look. Although this Dingfei Gongzi is an unsuccessful posture, his eyebrows are considerable, but they are 3 or 4 points similar to yours." Xiao Yuan was shocked. "What?" Xie Wei raised his eyebrows slightly, as if he was a little confused. "Isn't this good news?" Xiao Yuan realized that he had lost his temper, and hurriedly wanted to cover it up, but when he wanted to bend the corners of his lips and smile, he felt that the muscles in his face were distorted, and where could he laugh? Instead of laughing, he showed a bit of gloom. He was flustered and confused, and said perfunctorily, "My father just doesn't dare to believe it." The swords, books, swords, and pianos were all behind Xie Wei, and they looked coldly at Xiao Yuan's flawed performance. Xie Wei only felt ridiculous. He also really laughed, Clearly watching Xiao Yuan's face flashed with fear, jealousy, murderous intent, and weakness, but he said warmly and viciously, "If this matter is true, I have to congratulate Grandpa, congratulate Grandpa. It is not a great disaster for the prince to die, and the grandfather has a successor, and the Xiao family has a great fortune at that time." Xiao Yuan was 10,000 gloomy and irritable in his heart, but he didn't dare to show it at all under his weak heart, and his laughter was more ugly than crying, so he only said, "I hope so." Xie Wei asked knowingly, "Ding Fei Gongzi hasn't stopped yet, don't you want to go in and have a look?" Before Xiao Yuan could answer, he suddenly smiled again, "I forgot, even if you haven't seen you for 20 years, you may also be cowardly in your hometown. What's more, this person may not be true, and it is normal for you to hesitate in your heart." Xiao Yuan could only say, "Yes, yes." Another gust of wind blew, Xie Wei's body was cold, coughed, raised his eyes to see that the surrounding snow and night were faintly reflected, so he reopened his eyes and didn't look at it, and said, "The wind is cold and the night is dark, Grandpa forgive me, Xie has suffered from the wind and cold recently, and he didn't dare to stay long, so he said goodbye first." Xiao Yuan said, "Master Xie, go slowly." Xie Wei didn't ask Xiao Yuan how long he would stand here, covered his lips and coughed twice, then went down the steps with an umbrella from the knife and piano and walked to his room. Indoor lighting and light lighting. Xie Wei sat cross-legged on the side of the Luhan bed by the window, a touch of mockery appeared on his lips, and at the end he became a cold expressionless face. He raised his hand and put his eyes on it. Jiansha took out a jade bottle from the box he had brought with him, poured a pill, took a cup of warm water, handed it over, and served him and Shui to take the pill. Xie Wei's pale face did not improve. A volume of Taoist scriptures casually turned on the Kong table in the 4 directions, and the vertical lead characters on it were densely packed, and his eyes fell on it, and what he glimpsed happened to be a sentence: "Shun is ordinary, reverse is immortal, only upside down in the middle. The Tao is pure, and the Buddha has few desires." He is studying Buddhism and Taoism, and when he saw this so-called obscene nonsense, he felt a disturbance in his heart, and threw his hand into the corner of the wall, smashing it with a bang. The sword book and the sword and the piano were all startled. Xie Wei propped his elbow on the corner of the desk, his long fingers lightly pressed his tight temples, and asked, "Where is Ning Er?" Jianshu said, "After reading it, the doctor said that he fell asleep under the relaxation of his mind, and half an hour ago, Xiao Bao came to report that Fang woke up and ate something, and planned to go and see Lord Zhang." Xie Wei's eyes were closed, and a yin owl crossed the bottom of his eyes. "I can't sleep tonight." Since he can't live in peace, then no one can think about it, so he said coldly, "Tell her to come and learn the piano." Asterisk. When Zhang Xuning heard this, she almost jumped up from the bed in anger, and was very angry. "What kind of ghost piano do you learn on a snowy day at night?"